The following program is a Town of Colonie television production of the William K. Sanford Town Library.
Victor Grant is here to tell us about this book, The Late Starters Orchestra. He taught music at Duanesburg for 10 years, Chalmont for 10 years. He worked in PR. He's a photographer. He's done a lot of different things. He sent me his resume, but I lost it, sorry. But, and at age 82, he's still giving lessons and playing his instrument. So how many people here used to play an instrument and stopped many years ago? Well, maybe you'll take it up again after you hear about the book. So here's Victor to tell us about The Late Starters Orchestra by R.E. Goldman.
Thank you very much, Joe. I've been coming to this library for quite a few years.
There you go.
Quite a number of years. And I got to know Joe, and he asked me if I would do the review of this book. Well, I read the book, and I thought it was an excellent book as far as what happens as far as playing an instrument early in your life or not playing an instrument early and taking the instrument up again. I'm still playing. This is my baseball. I take lessons from the bassist in the, he plays in the Schenectady Symphony, Glens Falls Symphony, and Berkshire Symphony. And because he's much younger than I am, he's only 28. He went to Ithaca College, as I did. And so after reading the book and being asked to review, I'm here basically for your questions. I have a varied background. I think I can touch on just about any question that you have. What I did, for those people who are not familiar with string instruments in the string orchestra, I bought some pictures. I do photography. I'm not trying to sell these. But, for those who are not too familiar, I brought a picture of a violin, viola, cello, which Ari in the book played, and the string bass, which I play. So I really like to start out with questions. If anybody has any questions about playing an instrument later in life or pertaining to the book, to Ari and his trials and tribulations.
People may not have read the book, though.
Oh, okay. Well, okay, Ari is a columnist for the New York Times. And he had played earlier in his life, and then he decided to take the cello. He played the cello, which is this one, which it has a peg, and you stand it in front of you on the floor, and you sort of bow it like the bass, but you're sitting down, okay? And Ari goes through his trials and tribulations, but also his son also plays the cello, and he goes through his trials and tribulations with his son. And the course that his son used was the Suzuki method. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the Suzuki method. Could you raise your hand if you're familiar with it? Okay, I'll just touch on it. The Suzuki method has been in the United States probably about 50, 60 years, no, about 70 years, okay, because I'm 84. And when I was in college, Suzuki was big. They brought it over. And it's basically teaching little kids, young kids, let's say age 2 and 3 and 4, okay, how to play the violin. And it's all done by rote, meaning that they do not read notes, okay? They play what the teacher plays, and they play Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star with variations and what have you. By the time, they don't read notes until maybe they're until they're maybe 10 years old, okay? But what happens is that they're imitating their teacher. Their tone quality is excellent. Their intonation is excellent. And then, of course, they start to read notes. The comparison some people have made, the Suzuki method and the method that we use, the conventional method in this country, is that when a student gets to college, the interpretation of a piece that he or she may play is close to professional, because they have the sound in their ears. They did not have to concentrate on reading notes. Notes can get in the way, as far because you concentrate on the notes and not the intonation and not the tone quality. So anyway, that gives you a little background on, but they have the Suzuki method for all instruments, not just the violin. They have it for all the string instruments, and they have it for the brass instruments too, and the woodwind instruments. The idea of playing an instrument after you've reached a certain age, it's never too late. Okay, I'm still playing. Now, I practice 2 or 3 or 4 times a day. Now, I'll tell you that playing an instrument is great for your mental health. Well, it's great for my mental health. Because if you think that you're going to be depressed or you're not going to have a good outlook on life, you get your instrument and you play it for about 10 minutes, and you're a different person. Well, that's what music does for you. I'm very lucky that I have my music at my age. My music keeps me young. Not only does it keep me young, it gives me confidence, okay? Because I'm getting better. But I'm getting better because I have an excellent teacher. And as I said, he's only 28 years old, and I tell him, I said, Patrick, he's Patrick O'Connor, a good Irish kid, okay? And I say to Patrick, you're a great teacher. And he says, how can I be a great teacher when I'm so young? I say, you know more than I do. And he's been trained well. So it's never too late to pick up an instrument, to try an instrument. Yes?
Yes, I have 2 questions. One, the fellow in the book, Goldman, played before. What if you start, say, at 70, and you never played before? There's such a thing as music memory, so Albert Sachs wrote the book, so it stays with you. So he had the advantage of learning it younger, then he took it up again, say, when he was 70. What if you never played before, and you just start taking cello lessons when you're 70? Would that previously a help, or what effect would that have? You never played before, and you want to learn it. In fact, I had a couple of friends who did it, and they gave up after a while. But if you never played before and you start at 70 or 75, would that be a big disadvantage?
Well, to tell the truth, you don't really usually remember all the things that you did when you played when you were younger. All right, so there's not that carryover. All right. If you want to start, I think, if you want to start an instrument when you've, reached 60 or 70 or what have you, a string instrument is not easy, okay? A piano is not easy, okay? I suggest that you play the recorder. Why? Because it's easy. Now, you can always transfer what you learn from the recorder to another instrument, okay? The fact of the matter is that on a recorder, you can almost teach yourself. You can get the Trapp family book, It comes in the soprano and it comes in the tenor, because the recorders are in the key of C and they're also in the key of F. They're in the key of F for the tenor, no, the alto and the bass, okay? And they're in the soprano and the tenor are in the key of C, all right? So, to answer your question, you can go to a music store and buy an inexpensive recorder, get a Trapp family book, and teach yourself how to play. Now, the second thing you might want to do is to find someone else who plays the recorder and play duets. Duets are so much fun, and the reason I think they're so much fun is because you make lots of mistakes, okay? But you can't, see, with the two people, sometimes you end up laughing so much that you don't play the recorder, because it's amazing. I find it amazing, anyway. So that's what I would suggest. If you've had this idea all your life that you want to play the violin, the viola, the cello, or the bass, find a good teacher and start taking lessons. You know, desire is important when you play an instrument. Yes?
It's kind of funny. My doctor gave me a prescription. I have a heart arrhythmia, and it doesn't. He said, you know, I have a prescription. You ought to learn to play the drum because that has a right rhythm. And by the way, I said, don't joke. I give drum lessons. So I never had a prescription like that. He said that would be good for you if you could play the drum because it has a rhythm and you have an arrhythmia.
Oh, okay.
I never got a prescription like that, but that's what he said.
Well, I've never heard of that, but that doesn't say that it isn't so. Yes?
I've always had a devil of a time memorizing. I play the piano. And if I started the Suzuki method, how would I start that?
Well, because you get a teacher that teaches Suzuki. You have a teacher?
No.
Oh, you don't? Okay. Well, you'd have to. If you wanted to do the conventional method, you'd get a conventional teacher. If you want to do Suzuki method, you get a Suzuki teacher. It's important to get the right teacher.
Is there a Suzuki teacher in the area?
Oh, I'm sure. Well, there are lots of them. But as far as piano, I'm sure you're going to probably have to look pretty hard to find a piano one. I'm not sure. But you almost can find anything now, you know, if you go on the computer. You said something about memory?
Yeah. I've only been able to memorize one piece.
Oh, that's not important.
Stardust. I've known it for 50 years.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. You know, play it and enjoy it. But don't think that you have to memorize. You don't have to memorize. It's not important. In other words, don't put pressure on yourself. Enjoy music. Don't put pressure.
The thing is, you can't entertain people, you know, carrying a Facebook around. You know, you go to a party, it's nice to sit down at the piano and not.
Your purpose is not to entertain people. It's for you to enjoy the music. That's the way I feel about it. Now, entertaining people can be secondary, all right? But the most important thing is you. Music does so much for you. You'd be surprised I'm still surprised what it does for me. I don't believe I play as well as I play. I'm not bragging. But when you practice 3 or 4 times a day, you get better. You know, you've heard of the 10,000 hours, right? Well, it works. And you don't have to get 10,000. You can get 2,000, and you'll get better. Now, in fact, I talk to people occasionally, and I say, I can't believe I play as well as I play. The fact is that if you spend an hour or 2 hours with an instrument every day, you get better. And sometimes I tell people, I become a different person. I can't believe it. I become a different person. Who do I become? I become the musician. And then when I put the bass down, I'm a regular person. I pick the bass up and I start playing. I'm another person. The brain, I've learned more about the brain and learning since I've been playing bass. And I've been playing bass all my life, but I've really been concentrating on it for the last 4 years, okay? I can't believe, and I keep saying this to you, I can't believe, I'm a different person when I play the bass. And it's subconscious and conscious. A lot of subconscious. It's amazing. You will start to play, and you're in another world. Okay? You stop, you're in another world. Now, I just discovered this when I say just in the last few years. I never knew it existed. So that's my, I hope I've answered your question. Music is for you. Music gives you so much, you won't believe it. You won't believe it. There isn't anything else that you do in life, I don't think, anything else that you do in life that makes the brain work the way it does, the way it can, okay? The coordination comes, everything comes. The idea is if you do something 2 to 3 hours a day, every day, you get better. No, I didn't know that before, but at least I'm getting better. But I think most people can. Yes?
You were talking about the recorder as being a good instrument to begin. What would you also recommend with the recorder and harmonica have some similarity there in terms of a good instrument to somebody without much background?
I say the recorder because it's visual, okay? You can see the holes. In the book, they have the recorder, okay? The imprint of the recorder. So when they introduce you to a new note, there it is in the book, and there it is in the recorder. So, you know, in one day, you can learn 3 notes. You know, you can learn B, A, and G, okay? And then what they do, they give you songs with just those 3 notes. So, and then they add 1 note at a time, okay? The next page, they add another note, and then they give you songs with all 4 of those notes, and they go on and on and on. And as I say, you can teach yourself.
But would a harmonica be
You can't
in the
see.
same category as a recorder, a
No,
simple instrument?
I don't think so.
Oh, you don't?
I don't think so.
It looks like a simple electric.
Yeah, but
anywhere with you.
You can't see anything.
Yeah.
So you've got to, you know.
Right.
Any other questions? Okay. So I'll tell you about the bow. Okay. This is the bow that you use. Well, smaller bow for a violin. Okay. And a violin bow and a viola bow about the same. Cello bow is a little larger. Bass bow is larger. It's this side. Okay. Basically, this is hair, horsehair. Okay. And you tighten by screwing this to the right, and it stretches the horsehair, and it makes it tighter. Okay. And then, of course, you bow across the strings. Okay. Now, the hair against the strings won't bring about friction unless you use rosin. You put rosin on the bow. So sometimes if you go to a concert, you'll see the players rosining their bow, putting rosin on their bow. Okay. That makes that, then the rosin helps the string to grab, the bow string to grab the string on the instrument. And it pulls it back, and that's what makes it vibrate. Okay. Now, of course, the bow, as I said, is used on the violin, viola, the cello, and the bass. And sometimes you'll see people plucking the bass, okay? That can be done too, okay? Yes?
You said you've been playing the bass your whole life, and yet you only been taking lessons for the last 4 years?
Oh, I took lessons before,
Okay.
but it never clicked.
Again, when you turned
Well,
8.
okay, I started playing bass about 20 years ago. I took bass lessons from Dave Cobb, who played first bass for the Schenectady Symphony. No, for the Albany Symphony. Okay. He was a great teacher. Dave was a great teacher. I'll tell you a quick story. Dave had a son. Dave lived down in Nassau, and Dave had a son who was 12 years old. And his son used to say to him, "I want to play bass, Daddy." And Dave would say, "You don't have to play bass because I play bass." Well, his son kept after him, and it's a good thing. So Dave started giving his son lessons. Dave took lessons from Portnoy, who was the first bassist of the Boston Symphony. He's retired now. So his son started taking lessons. But Dave had a high school student when I used to go to his home to have lessons, named Dave Barker was his last name. Don't remember his first name. Anyway, Dave sent Barker to the New England Conservatory. That's where Portnoy taught. Okay, so Dave Barker took lessons from Portnoy. Dave used to say Barker had all the wires connected. And he said he had most of the wires connected. Dave said he himself had most of the wires connected. He says, but Baker had all the wires connected. Well, I'll make a long story short. Portnoy retired from first bassist of the Boston Symphony. Guess who took his place? Barker. Now, getting back to Dave's son, he went to New England Conservatory also. And he ended up playing bass in the Cleveland Orchestra. Right now he plays first bass in the Metropolitan Orchestra. So you can see that his son was taking it all in when he was born. And you see where he ended up. And it's a good idea that he was persistent. And I think you got to be careful with kids. You never know what's inside them, okay? So if they say something and they keep after you, all right, you ought to do something. Because they can be somewhat of a mystery, okay, of who they are. Because you don't know who they are. You don't know who they are until they have the opportunity to participate, okay? And then you find out who they are. But they knew who they are. They hear something, see something, and they latch on to it, okay? But they don't tell you about it. Well, they don't really know that they've latched on. They know it's their world. So you got to be very careful with kids, young kids, if they say, I want to do this, okay? Because they may be in that world, or maybe they've been here before. You never know. Yes?
How has learning to play, again, affected your listening to music? Are you more likely to listen to serious music and to go to concerts now that you have taken up an instrument again? And do you understand what you're hearing more now than you did prior to taking up an instrument?
Answer the last question first. Yes, I hear more now than I used to hear. It's so simplistic now, okay? Before it was sort of complex. Now it's not complex at all. I hear it, I know it's coming before they even play. All right? Being a participant is, I think, very important. I didn't answer all your questions, did I?
Yeah, You listen better now than you did before. I think you're saying yes, you did. Are you more likely to go to concerts now than you did before, or listen to stuff on CDs more now than you did before?
It doesn't make me want to go to concerts more. But when I hear something that I like I listened to the Dvorak, and I say to myself, I can't believe he wrote that piece of music. He was a genius. I mean, I didn't appreciate Dvorak until, let's say, 2 years ago. All right? Because, we're pushed with Bach and Beethoven and Brahms and Mozart. Okay. But Dvorak, I can't believe that he wrote all the music that he wrote. He wrote in so many genres. Yeah, it's changed my life. There's no doubt about the fact. And I don't play in an orchestra, okay? Now, a few years ago, I used to conduct the senior orchestra of Albany. I think for 3 years I did. I stopped playing. Basically, I stopped playing. It's because getting the bass in and out of the car, it's not easy. It was too heavy for me. I mean, it was, I was having back problems, okay? So that's why I stopped playing in orchestra, all right? So, people say, well, what are you preparing for? What are you getting ready for? I say, I'm not getting ready for anything. I'm just enjoying it. And that's what I do. I just enjoy playing. Okay, but I have to tell you, I find, let's say last week, I was playing a passage, and let's say yesterday, I was playing the same passage, and I found another way to play it. And I said to myself, how come I didn't see that before? It's amazing. It's amazing what the mind does and what it doesn't do. But I see things on a daily basis that I didn't see before. And I can't believe it. But I think it has to do with your security. You're secure with doing it one way, all right? And you don't try another way. But you look at it this day and you say, oh, I can finger that on another string, and that's just so much easier. Well, that in itself makes your day. It really makes your day, because something new has come into your day that you did not see before. And you're saying, why didn't I see that before? I have no idea. But see, every time I pick up the bass to play, I know I might see something different.
Yeah. Now, what about that experience as being a conductor of the adult orchestra? That must have been a hassle. I mean, my friend David Allen Miller, he says, sometimes there's somebody in that orchestra who's a little bit ahead or a little bit behind, and I got to get them together here. Do you have a problem with that?
No, not really, because we all make mistakes. See, if you're a practicing musician, and nothing against Dave, if you're a practicing musician, you make mistakes. So other people are going to make mistakes too. So you have to allow for that, because that's the way it is. I have to tell you, I have a student, he's 10 years old. He plays the guitar. And I come in for his lessons, and he picks up the guitar, and he starts playing right away. I've never had a student like that. This kid, because he can play the guitar, he plays the guitar. So when he picks it up, he starts to play. He tunes the guitar by himself. Okay, I taught him how to tune the guitar. I just sit there and wait until he's finished. Okay, and then I said, let's play. Oh, we started playing duets 2 weeks ago. So I said to him, I think this is the duet we played. He said, no, it isn't. And he was right. It wasn't the one. It was another duet. I said, well, we'll play this one first, and then we'll go and play the other one that we played last week. And he says, okay. So that's what we did. The first week we played duets. I played my recorder, okay? We finished the first piece. He said, I like this. And I said, oh. See, I still don't know who he is because he plays chess. He won a trophy, okay? So his mother says, do you want to show Mr. Grant your trophy? He says, yeah, and he runs up to his room and brings down the trophy and he shows it to me. I said, that's beautiful. It was big, it was beautiful. He said, I can do anything I want to do. I said to his mother, I said, we still don't know who this kid is, and we don't. When he said to me, after we played the duet the first time, he said, I'd like that. And I said to myself, holy cow. The fact of the matter is, this fit in his world. I don't know what his world is yet, but it fit in his world. I mean, we're playing two different parts. He's playing a part, and I'm playing a part. Now, he must hear my part, but he can concentrate. This kid has concentration. We don't know what it is, okay? He's like a sponge. He's only 10 years old. Now, that means I have a responsibility. If you're a music teacher and you run into someone who you know doesn't make mistakes where most of the kids make mistakes, you know you have a responsibility because you're supposed to make sure that you do the right thing because you don't know who you're dealing with. Well, that's the responsibility of a music teacher. At least that's the way I was taught. You never know who you're sitting next to. You may be sitting next to the next whatever. Well, if you are, you have a responsibility. That's that simple. That's what my music teacher told me. My music teacher told me, Bill Shine. Bill Shine played at the Hippodrome in New York City. Now, that was back in the 30s, I think. Bill, Jewish guy, wonderful man. And he said to me, he says, Victor, he says, I used to go to see he and his wife on vacation from college, and we'd talk and talk about everything. And he'd say to me, he says, now, Victor, he says, remember, everybody's not going to like you. And I said to myself, oh, why? There's nothing wrong with me. But the most important thing he said to me, he says, you're supposed to pass this on. Now, I was maybe 19. I understood exactly what he meant. What he was doing for me, I was supposed to do for somebody else. And that's what I've been doing all my life because Bill Shine told me that that's what I was supposed to do. And it made a lot of sense, even though I was 19 years old. All right. So it's the idea is that the student, my 10-year-old guitar student that I give lessons to every week, enhances my life. Playing the bass enhances my life. I'm very lucky. I have those two things, plus I have my photography. I do photo note cards, okay? And I have them in 25 locations. They're, Bookhouse of Stuyvesant Plaza, the airport, the train station. They're all over the place, okay? Now, I've been taking pictures all my life. So a friend of mine says, well, why don't you put them on cards? So 5 years ago, I put them on cards, and they sell. Now, that doesn't allow me to earn a living from that. But between playing the bass, my cards, and my 10-year-old guitar student, in other words, if you have somebody or something in your life that makes you function or helps you to function, and there's nothing like music, as far as helping you to function. It's amazing. I've been at this a long time, and I still can't believe it. Yes?
In the book, did they finally get the orchestra together, all these late bloomers?
Yes, they did. And his son, Ari's son, I think was 15, 16, and rock and roll hit him. And of course, Ari rebelled against that because he had taken him to summer camps, he had taken him to Suzuki lessons, and then his son wants to go rock and roll. Well, the fact of the matter is, his son bought an electric guitar, he had amplifiers, what he learned, his son played cello also. What his son learned playing cello allowed him to be a multitask person. And Ari accepted that. Finally accepted that. And I could understand. And then his son was off on his own. I should get back to the book. And how much time do we have?
5 or 10 more minutes.
Okay. I think it was a good book for anyone who plans on taking up an instrument in their older years. I've never read a book like it before, but I can relate to the book very well. He had, not only as a writer at the New York Times, but he had his music. Ari had his music. And that was good. It was good for him, it was good for his wife, it was good for all the people he knew. Okay, and when Ari had his bar mitzvah, his son played. But it just fulfilled his life. Ari's life. Music fulfilled it. And he always talked about Mr. J, which was his music teacher when he took lessons before. Do you have any more questions?
Thanks, Victor.
You're welcome. Thank you.